So good evening everyone. I'm not going to do a video about my boards tonight. I have another topic of conversation and it's got to do with breeding your own line of boards, or whatever you wanted to call it, if you're interested in trying to breed a family. The first thing I'll start out by saying is I've done a lot of reading, a lot of research. I love genetics. I looked into how we get the genetic coefficient of the boards up to 40%. Research shows that if you can get 40% of the original board you're trying to reproduce into the offspring, you have a better hit rate for both breeding and for racing. So you're trying to get up to a 43% of what they call the genetic coefficient. So basically it means you need to plan your breeding if you're going to try to reproduce a super pigeon, a super cock, or a super hen that you have already bred. And the likelihood is then that you'll have a better hit rate with the offspring if you try to plan around this. Now, most people think it takes a lot of time to do this, but it really doesn't. And the reason being, it takes a bit more time with hens, I have to say, because you can only get so many eggs out of a hen in a year. But with cocks it's very easy to do, because if you have a bull system and you have 3 or 4 exceptional hens and you want to try and reproduce this super cock, it's very, very easy. However, with a hen, it's just a bit more time consuming. I would say it takes up to 3 years. With a cock you can kind of do it in 2. Well, 3 years really, but with the hen you just produce less offspring, so you don't know where you're going. You have less to choose from. Okay, so we're going to take the sample from the cock, and we'll just say it's a cock. And so we'll just say you have a cock, you want to reproduce this cock, and what you do is you pair them to, I'm going to say 4 of the best hens you can possibly get. Okay, and the biggest factor in this is most people think they have to own the 4 hens themselves. You don't, especially if you have a cock. If you have a cock that is worth his weight in gold and you want to use the bull system, and 3 or 4 lads, maybe you only have 1 hen, maybe you have 2, a couple of other lads who have 2 decent hens, and this works for sprint boards and distance boards. Work with fellas, work with other lads. That's the biggest thing that's being lost in racing today. Fellas don't want to work together. I started out in my distance team here, and I had a couple of lads together to start buying boards. One of them got bought out. The other guy is still with me. He had his pick of the lot when he decided to go, but he only went for 2 boards. Actually, 2 boards, yeah, 2 boards all he wants. So the rest are going, the rest are for sale. So I'm going to show you a little breeding plan right now. I have it wrote down just in handy, and how to breed this. Okay, I'm going to talk you through it. So we have C's and H's. So the C's are the cocks, obviously, and the H's are the hens. Okay. So I'm leaving this here for a couple of seconds, so you can just get it. You can freeze frame it, so you can copy it down and do whatever you want. Okay. So we have C with H1 and H2, as you can see there at this end of the pedigree, and it walks down to the offspring down here, which are these are the 40% you're aiming to produce. Okay, the C and H in this generation. So where do we go with it? So we're going to talk about cock line first. So you have a cock. If you get 4 hens and you put them on the bull system, or don't put them on the bull system, it doesn't matter. Float all the eggs off the 4 hens to other cocks, other pairs, that you can get more out of those hens. And if you can produce, let's say, say 3 pair of youngsters off each of those hens with that cock, perfect. What you're looking for probably more likely is 3 hens, because he has to be paired to his daughters. So I have, in this situation, 2 hens, but you can do this with as many hens as you want. And that's the problem. Fellas think that you have to have loads of boards. You don't. I have way too many pigeons. I'm already planning my starting with a foreign country if I get there, or restarting here at the moment, and I'm starting with a hell of a lot of those boards, just the same lines. That's all, and it's very, very simple. So you get your best cock you have, and you pair them to, I'm going to say 2 hens, because that's the sample we have here, okay? And we pair them to 2 hens, okay? 2 unrelated hens, but hopefully are superior hens as well. Hopefully they're good hens, okay? They may have bred good boards, or they may have raced well, okay? Whatever, it doesn't matter. So, provided the caliber is there, the boards are of good enough quality, he's paired to these hens, and then you take the best daughter out of those hens that he's been paired with, and you pair them back to the two daughters in year 2. So this is where we have H3 and H4, as you can see here. So this is cock 1, the same cock, with hen 1 and hen 2, and they produce hen 3 and hen 4. Okay, and as you can see, hen 3 and hen 4 here is back to cock 1, which means the father. So their father-daughter mates these two. Okay, so these father-daughter mates then produce these birds, and these two birds, cock 3 and hen 5, or cock 2, sorry, and hen 5, are now half-brother and sister through the cock, but they're also inbred out of father-daughter matings, as you can see here. Okay, and what we do is we take this generation here, and we put them back together. We pair them up, and these produce a line of these. Okay, now when we look at this, I have only one cock 2, and one hen H5. In that pairing, in both of those couples, again, you're probably going to produce 6 youngsters or 8 youngsters out of the father-daughter matings on both sides, and quite simply take all of those youngsters and pair them back together, producing a whole ream of H6s and C3s, 3rd generation cocks, and 6th hen in the line. Okay, and those birds are for racing. Those birds now have the genetic coefficient of 40 to 45%. Okay, that research shows will give you a better hit rate for breeding and for racing. Okay, now the important thing is the next step. Okay, the next step is very important. When you have a line of those birds that are at that generation, that point, to breed down from them and keep the pool the same, as in 40%, anything that's bred from that point on, that's paired half-brother and sister or cousins that are out of that generation, they will all maintain the 40% variation, the 40% genetic coefficient. Okay, so what you do is you take the yearlings all at that point, you pair them back together. You take their yearlings. Now you don't have to do it with them all. You can try and pick and select the best out of them that you can. Maybe you notice a trigger of something that turns out right, and you pick the best yearlings all the time and you breed them down, and that gives you the genetic coefficient constantly of 42%, and hopefully 45%, and hopefully then, provided the birds are the right birds in the beginning, you start to see an improvement in the quality of the race board you have and the quality of the breeding they perform. Now what it does is also, it makes the birds exceptional then for breeding. That's what it does. It keeps that 40% higher. So when you keep going down the generations and then you bring in a cross, you have a natural cross there, because these are already a line-bred, inbred family. And what you could also do is, on the same tack, is you can breed 2 or 3 lines of these down from one cock. And when you get to that point of the cousins, the H6 generation, the inbred father-daughter matings, the half-brother and sisters then paired back together, when you get to those children at that 40%, if you breed separate lines down, that's why you don't need loads of boards. If you breed separate lines down from those boards, within 4 generations, there's enough genetic variation there after the 4th generation or at the 4th generation that you can actually naturally pair those boards back into each other, and they become a cross for independent lines. They become independent lines, and they become a natural cross because they've got the same base genes, and because of the natural cross, it brings about hybrid vigour again, which is what we're all looking for race purposes. Okay, but the natural cross then can go into either line because of the fact that they're from the same base boards, and it works. Researchers out there has shown it works. Okay, and it's like everything though, this is not a magic wand. I'm not saying it is a magic wand. So for anybody that wants to comment and say this is foolproof, it's not foolproof. We all know we produce far more average to mediocre to bad boards than we do superstars. Okay, what I'm saying is this should, provided the base and the start point is exceptional, should bring up the caliber in your loft. And that's always our aim. You're trying to bring up the caliber of board in your loft. We are always going to produce more bad boards than good boards. There's nothing we can do about that. That's nature. You're fighting against nature, dude. But with this kind of selective breeding, you're increasing your chances of producing a better performance pigeon and a better breeding pigeon. Okay? Have a go. Try it with a couple of your boards in your loft. You don't need to breed hundreds of these. If you think you have an exceptional cock or an exceptional hen, if it's a hen, where I have C's, replace them with the H, that the hen is the original, and it becomes mother-son matings, and then from those mother-son matings, the same formula follows on. You pair the half-brother and sisters together, and the same formula, you know, the line there. And it's that simple. But the problem is, it takes time, and you need to be patient with what you're doing. Let them develop. And I'm not saying keep all of these boards for stock. When you've bred from the boards and you've bred down the next generation you want, if you want to race those boards you've bred from, let them go. That's what I've done here. I put yearlings in the race loft. The yearlings then are in the stock loft. The yearlings then come out of the stock loft. They don't stay there. They're for racing. You know, they're used in a breeding program and then they're back on the race road. So you can actually do this. Have a go. It means holding. If I said to you, if you have two hens that you're breeding from and you want to pair the cock, say, to 4 of his daughters, it means holding 4 hens back for 1 year to produce 3 pair of youngsters off each of those 4 hens, and off each of those 3 pair of youngsters out of the father-daughter matings. You just keep a pair out of each of them. Try and pick the best cock and the best hen out of each of the father-daughter matings, and that's your 6 pigeons then. The rest all go on the race road, so you're not building up a surplus of birds. They still go racing. And then when those yearlings, half-brother sisters, are finished with breeding, you bred down through them, you hold 6 of those and you let the parents race. And you breed another 6 and you let the parents race. And that's how you cycle it over. And when you're cycling it over, you're always raising the caliber. So you're going to breed 3 pair out of each of these every year, or 4 pair out of each of these every year. You're going to try pick the best. You may end up seeing that the birds then that become raceable after as 2-year-olds will actually start performing for you. And when you see performance, then they're worth breeding out of again. That's always got to be the aim. Breeding from performance pigeons. It's always the aim here at Safe Haven Lofts, or always has been rather, to breed eventually out of performance pigeons rather than birds that have not performed, which is what's in the stock loft at the moment. They're all direct children of performance pigeons. Should always be the aim to develop your own performance lines. Okay? I hope that's been interesting. It is well worth a look at. Well worth a look at having a go at this. Again, I'm going to finish off by showing you this diagram again. So there it is there. Again, if you're doing it with a hen line, replace the C's that I have here. This becomes your original hen paired with 2 other cocks. That just takes a bit more time. It can be 3 or 4 cocks. Get 2 or 3 pair of eggs off the hen. Give her a month's break. 2 or 3 pair again with a different cock. Give her a month's break. 2 or 3 pair again with a different cock. Give her a month's break. It just takes more time with hens, that's all. Whereas with cocks, I find it easy. It's the bull system. Boom, I can do 6, 8 hens at a go and develop independent lions out of the same birds at the same time, giving you a natural cross, as I said, when you breed down 4 or 5 generations of the yearlings all the time. And that's what you're looking for. It's just a bit of time. So have a go, have a bit of patience with a couple of your birds, not with all of them, just with a couple of them, and see how it goes for yourselves, lads, okay? I hope that's been of interest. It's coming up to breeding time. Why not plan for the future, not just next year? Good luck, lads.